Within the progressive side of psytrance, one of the things that are very common are slowing down and speeding up buildups. Usually these things are called dub delays or loop builds. And today I have a very cool example of how to make it. So right here we have the project. This is the project that I'm working on. And let's just play this little section here so that you can get an idea of what we're going to make. So you can hear that we have this kind of transitioning effect where we start off with this very fast rhythm and it's just slowly slowing down to a point at some point where it just becomes exactly one beat long and it's exactly synced to the offbeat. So this whole thing started as a pluck that sounds like this. And the way that I made that is through this serum patch. There's nothing really special going on in terms of the sound design. We just have the tones from my first tone pack and then we have a saw wave right here. It doesn't look like a saw wave, but again, this is one of those saw waves where I have randomized all of the phases by going in here and clicking randomize all. Then goes through a filter, and this filter has this specific envelope set up here. Also, we've set up the amp envelope like this so that we get a little bit more of a plucky sound. You can see there's no effects in here, and we actually have no post-processing either. So you can see it's a very simple sound. What I then did is I rendered out that waveform and I made sure that the length was exactly the length that I wanted to get to whenever the slowdown is finishing. So this is exactly one beat long. So now that we have our individual sound synthesized, we have to turn that into a slowdown. But before we do that, I do want to say if you want to support this channel, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and like the video. Also, I'm running a sale on my Gumroad where with code SUMMERSALE23, all lowercase, you're going to get 30% off all of my products. There's actually no limit on this code, so even if you get my whole catalog of products, you will be able to get 30% off of everything. This includes my masterclass, and I'll leave a link for both of them in the description. The sale is only effective until July 24th, so make sure that you get it before then. Now let's get back into the video. Now this next part is a little bit hard to just show you how I did it, so I'm actually going to redo it. And the way that you're going to do this is if I go into my instruments and I get myself a nice sampler, we can just immediately drag this in here. And you can see this original file was a little bit longer. It was actually 2 beats long. So we can just chop that up. And even if it's like this, even if the file itself is longer, but you just have a selection like this, it will actually stay selected at the length that you want. We can now set our sustain mode to here so that it's going to start to loop. And what we want to do is we want to essentially change this loop end from very quickly going down over time. Unfortunately, as you can see, this parameter here, you cannot automate this parameter. So the way that you need to do that is we go into the modulation, we'll turn on the auxiliary modulation right here, and then right in here we can set loop length. Now we want to set this to a negative value and we want to set this pretty close to 100, but not all the way. So I'd like to go maybe like 97, something like that. This is something that you can play with. The other thing that we want to do here is set the slope to 0%. And then we can play with the decay time to get the exact length of the loop that we want, of the slowdown effect. If you want to have the slowdown effect last for exactly 10 minutes, you just go like this, 10,000 milliseconds, and then you'll get 10 seconds here. And now you can hear we have something like this. You can hear towards the end here, we have this beat starting to appear. Now there's one important thing of this sound here, of this particular technique, and that is that you determine the key of your sound in here. As you can see, we have A#0 here, and then in here, if we look into the MIDI, this has to be on C3. And that's because C3 will play back the sound at the exact same pitch as it was recorded within the sampler. Obviously, if you change the pitch, you're going to change the timing and the length of the sample, and you will no longer have that synchronized to the beat effect. So what I did then is I just laid out the MIDI that I wanted it for the length that I wanted it, and I recorded the MIDI down here. As you can see, I made some edits to this sound as well, but the main thing that this allows you to do is synchronize it, because there's no easy way to determine exactly where it's going to land on the beat. And as you can see, I had to take this recording, move it back a little bit so that it would actually synchronize with the beat right here, exactly on the offbeat. Also, one of the important things, if you want to really nicely transition into a drop like this, you need to have a little bit of space before it in which it's already synced to the beat. And in the way that I've set it up, our version had a length of 23 seconds, which is roughly the area that I have selected. And as you can see, that leaves us about 2 bars for it to be synced to the beat, and therefore it already induces the beat before the kick and bass and all of the fills and all of that stuff starts to play. So the listener gets used to the vibe of the beat, it knows what the beat is about to do, and then the kick and bass comes in and it starts to play, and obviously then it's synchronized and everybody starts to dance. In terms of effects, I've put all of my effects on here because that's the easiest way to do it. First of all, I just have some gain staging here, then I have an OTT for that extra loudness. I have a filter here that is doing a lot of work. As you can see, it's going down here. We're also going down in Q factor, and this is also used to slightly change the gain over time. We then have a stereo spread here. Because I didn't do any kind of post-processing in the synthesis nor in this part here, you can see that all of the post-processing for the actual sound has to be done here, and therefore we need to make sure that our stereo field is set up correctly. We have this pitch shifter here, which is actually only really used towards the end of this here. So this is not part of the actual slowdown effect itself. You can also see we have a delay where I've again automated some of the parameters. You can see some filter movement from time to time here. You can see the feedback changing over time here. And the same is true for this reverb here as well. And there's this really cool thing that I'm doing both with the reverb as well as with the delay, in that we're creating a lot of ambience right before it's about to sync with the beat. And then when it syncs with the beat, that ambience goes away. And then finally, we have some more EQing, which is also being used to add some additional gain to this part here, just because that part just needed a little bit of an extra boost. So that's how you make that sound. That's everything you need to know about it. And again, here's the sound as it is. I'll just play it soloed because we've heard it in the context of the track before. So now you can hear exactly what it sounds like. So that's how you make those kind of sounds. I do want to say one final thing. If instead of going down, you want them to go up, the way that you can do that is either by reversing the sample before importing it and then reversing the sample that you get out of it, like this one here, then obviously it's going to reverse the whole thing and you get a build-up instead of a slowdown. The other way that you can do that is by increasing the attack here, but then you need to know the exact length of the build-up that you want to get. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by leaving a like, and if you're new here, make sure that you're subscribed. Another good way to support the channel is by watching more of my content, so I'll leave a couple of videos in the end cards. But that's going to be it for now. I hope you enjoyed and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.